Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our great friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86 East End of Listowel, our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course the Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan Drury back on here with Clarkey, and I'm very pleased to welcome back a great friend of mine. We go way, way back. He's been on the show before, and he's back because there's so much to talk about across the sporting world. Our friend Albert Vartanian, the host of the Homestand Sports podcast. You can also catch him on Room 442 with James Sharman, the legend. Clarkey, I know you need your soccer fix, so Albert's your guy. All right. Good. And of course, providing content for the parlay as well. Albert, man, how are you, brother?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I think the last time I was on here, I picked the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl. Oh. And after this past week, no bueno, Ryan.
Dude, Browning, well, let's be fair to them here. Like, Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and they still do control their destiny in their division. So
they do.
I don't know that your pick is way off base. I don't know if I love their defense, though, but their offense could take them there. You never know, dude. Don't give up.
I want to see some Nathan Rourke. If Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, give me some Nathan Rourke, and I'm happy.
That would be sick. It would be fantastic. And speaking of him and, you know, Canadian content, we got to talk about this Shohei Ohtani business. But before we do that, we've got to talk about the big domino that finally dropped this week, and it was Juan Soto. And, of course, the New York Yankees, the evil empire, the ones to go get him. They also acquired Trent Grisham, a very solid utility guy that can play all over the infield. And, of course, they send back a pretty good catcher in Kyle Higashioka, who's a very good defensive catcher, Michael King, a great pitcher, and a number of prospects. Your opinion of the deal, do you think the Padres got enough out of who is a generational talent and one of the greatest on-base guys based on his age in baseball history, Albert?
It does feel like the Padres probably could have got a lot more, but it's tough to say right now. I like Michael King. This guy was like a 2.23 ERA guy last season, 2.5 career guy. So you're getting a really good pitcher. You're getting a really good catcher because framing was a huge issue for the Padres catchers last season. So you're getting a really good catcher in that way, defensive, like you mentioned. But I mean, you're getting Juan Soto. And if you compare, and I did this today, if you compare Ohtani and Soto's numbers, at least like when both of them have a bat in their hands, it's pretty close. It's not that far off. Soto is only 25 years old. He's got a World Series Silver Slugger. He's been an All-Star. And now he's a lefty at Yankee Stadium with a short porch. He gets to go to Fenway with a short porch, Camden Yards. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Soto hit 40, 50 home runs this season. He had an off year last year, and it was one of his best years of his career. That's how good Juan Soto is. And now behind him in the lineup, he's going to have Aaron Judge. So I think it's a great deal. I do feel a little bit that the Padres got somewhat fleeced, but we always knew that Soto was going to be on the move, and the Yankees made the best of it.
You mentioned Ohtani's name, and there's no way around not getting into this with Ohtani.
Right.
Are you like the rest of the world, it seems, right now, just refreshing Twitter every 3 seconds to see what's going on? Like, this is really captured me, and I know Ryan, we've been texting back and forth nearly on an hourly basis about it. It's amazing how the fans in Toronto are just dying to get this guy, but in the back of my mind, I think of who's trying to do it, and it worries me.
Yeah, It worries me as well. But Clarkey, I mean, when they're calling this guy the modern day Babe Ruth, and I think that's why people start going crazy. And I tweeted this today. Someone tweeted out like, hey, the Kikuchis are in town. And everyone's putting together the 2 and 2 that Ohtani is somebody that Kikuchi, he looked up to Kikuchi essentially. Kikuchi's in town. I went on Instagram and looked at Kikuchi's Instagram and his wife's Instagram to see if they were in town. And then I realized I had to catch myself and be like, what am I doing here? So it's kind of caught me a bit. But this is what it means. Like, you're getting best player in baseball, maybe the best player of all time at the moment. He's going in that direction. You're getting a top 10 starting pitcher, a top 10 hitter in the majors. Like, he won the AL MVP last year and he missed games. Like, he won the MVP with games to play. That's how good this player is. So I can understand why people are going crazy. Now, do I think it's going to happen? I hope so. And it sounds that way because I don't think that someone who's traveling from LA or Japan all the way to Dunedin is going there for no reason. I think he truly believes that the Jays might be a landing destination. Will it happen? I'm not sure. I mean, you're looking at a player who's going to get paid $600 million at least. And if you're looking at Rogers, they have the money. In 2026, the NHL deal is going to come off the books, so they're going to have that type of do-re-mi for a player like Ohtani. So I'm all into it. I think it's kind of getting a little bit crazy. The secrecy is unbelievable. We don't know the guy's dog's name. We don't know where he wants to go. I mean, it's something that we've never seen before, and I can understand why, Blue Jays fans are kind of losing their minds a little bit.
It's an extreme thing, and I, in my lifetime, can't remember a pursuit of a free agent player like this across any of the four major sports in my life. I've never seen a frantic race to the finish line to try and get a guy who's not only available in his prime, but is also this historically significant. Like, we never saw, Wayne Gretzky in his prime as a free agent. We never saw, a lot of big name baseball players at this level, other than maybe Alex Rodriguez before he got caught cheating, at this type of level. And he's so far away and above A-Rod. I want to ask you this, though, Albert. You mentioned the $600 million figure. I personally think he's worth it, but obviously he won't pitch for the next year because of the Tommy John. Do you think he's worth this money? Left-handed bat, power. He's got some of the best power metrics we've ever seen. Forget about all of his pitching stats. Do you think this is a worthwhile pursuit financially for the Blue Jays?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to make it back. I mean, if you think about soccer and Lionel Messi in Argentina, he is an absolute god. It's the same thing with Ohtani in Japan. So not only are you getting a player that's maybe one of the best hitters in baseball, I think he's the best player in baseball. That's because he does both. But if you think he's the best hitter in baseball, you're getting him for at least one season, and then he's going to grab the ball and start pitching from the rubber the next season after that. But you're looking at merchandise. You can use him to promote whatever you want. The Jays are investing a ton of money into the stadium. You're going to get that back with Ohtani and sales. It just makes so much sense for Toronto at the moment. And listen, like I said, you're getting one of the best players in the world at the moment. You're going to make that money back. So the $600 million, it sounds crazy, but you're getting a global superstar. You're not getting somebody who's just well known in America. You're getting somebody who can cross borders.
Yeah, I completely agree. And go ahead, Clarkey.
No, I was just going to say, Albert, are you worried at all? Like I am. Like, I have no faith in this management team. And
neither do I.
They've disappointed me time and time and time again. We'll never know what his decision, why he came to the decision he did if he doesn't come. But in the back of my mind, I just think Shapiro and Atkins aren't going to be able to get it done. And that's the only thing that's stopping me from really digging in and getting excited and wanting to buy a jersey right away.
Yeah, and I listen, I don't blame you because I think of the same thing. And I'm far from believing that the Jays are going to be the team to pick up Ohtani because all we hear about is secrecy and how he doesn't want the teams that he's dealing with to talk about that he's dealing with them, which I find very strange. And we saw from Dave Roberts, the head coach of the Los Angeles Dodgers, he came out and talked about it. And the GM of the Dodgers didn't back him up. So you can understand how they understand that as well. But with that said, I assume, I don't have any inside information, that they're getting this push from ownership. Because why else would they be meeting with Ohtani? I mean, it makes no sense to do so. Like if Ohtani wants to fly from LA or Japan or wherever he's coming from all the way to Dunedin to meet with Atkins and Shapiro, it can't be for no reason. They can't just be meeting with him just to meet with him. It has to be because Rogers is saying, hey, listen, if you guys want to make a splash, we need to. We have these renovations. We got to get some money into the door. The best way to go about that is to sign Ohtani. Okay, it's going to cost us $600 million, but can we make it back because he's a global superstar? And I'm assuming Rogers is saying, yes, we can. So go out and do whatever you can to get him. Like I said, though, but do I believe that the Jays are actually truly front runners? I don't, even though all these MLB insiders are saying yes. you're also hearing, well, this team is in it. The Dodgers are there. The Giants are secretly awaiting. The Angels can still be a team. Who knows with the Yankees? So I'm not holding my breath, but I truly believe, for whatever reason, that Rodgers actually wants this guy to come here.
So do you think the Dodgers are the front runners then?
I think so. I would say the Dodgers or the Angels, because he seems to be a type of guy who likes routine and likes comfortability, and he has that with the Angels, and he has that in Los Angeles. Does he have a better chance to win with the Dodgers or the Angels? Obviously, the Dodgers. Does he have a better chance to win with the Dodgers or the Toronto Blue Jays? I think that's somewhat of a coin flip, because obviously the Dodgers have great players, Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. The Jays still have some work to do, and you have to cross the border to come and do that. So I would lean towards the Dodgers, but listen, I'm not going to be surprised if he comes to Toronto. I just think Rodgers is actually making a real push for the first time in a long time.
I won't be surprised either, but, I know you share this thinking, Albert, and, Clarkey, obviously, we're both on the same page here. It is very un-Shapiro-like. I mean, let's consider that, Shapiro and Atkins has a package deal in terms of management. These are guys that did a lot of their work in Cleveland where they simply just did not have the type of budget to attract guys like this, let alone keep their own players. So this is something that is very out of character for them. Now, have they broken character with some of their signings in Toronto? Yes, they have. Two of the most lucrative deals in team history were the $125 million that George Springer got and the $132 million, I believe it counts out to, for Jose Barrios. And keep in mind, they traded two of their top 50 prospects, including Austin Martin, to acquire Barrios. So they have broken their mold in the past. I agree that Rodgers is the one definitely pushing for this. Big Ed up in the high chair there. My concern, Clarkey, goes a little deeper than your concern of not getting him, period. And Albert, I'm curious what you think of this. My concern is actually that they do get him, but that it won't matter because this management team and this coaching staff are still in charge of the team. A coaching staff and management team that's so reliant on computers, no matter what BS they told us when they got eliminated against Minnesota, with that joke thing that they did with Jose Barrios when he was cooking his old team, that it won't matter because let's say they're in the playoffs and Ohtani's cooking through 6 innings and they pull him and they end up losing, or they don't utilize him properly, or they pull him for a pinch runner in the 9th inning because he's fatigued. They did that with Davis Schneider this year, who was cooking at the time. They pulled him for a pinch runner and they lost the game. That's my concern, is that they'll sign him, but they'll screw it all up with their dumb decisions. Your thoughts?
You're scaring me, Ryan. What are you doing?
I'm sorry.
Ohtani coming to Toronto, and you're giving me flashbacks of the Minnesota Twins series. Yeah. I will say this. I mean, John Schneider came out recently. I mean, he talked for the first time since that series. I mean, how much longer are you going to wait to talk about what happened? But he did say that was his decision. So make of that what you will. I think he might probably just be getting in front of it. He's still trying to take the knives out of his back from postseason when everybody threw him under the bus. But I mean, that's really hard to say. I'm going to assume and hope that if the Jays even get to the position where they get to Ohtani and they're in a wild card or in a divisional series, that if Ohtani's pitching, they're going to leave him in. But I understand your concern because we've been there, we've seen it, and the Jays have made the wrong decision. But this is just a different beast. I mean, again, you're getting like I said, modern day Babe Ruth. This is a move that you don't see in sports ever, let alone in baseball when he's going from an American team to a Canadian team. These types of moves just never happen. And I'm going to assume that they're making this move and moving forward. I'm going to cross my fingers, Ryan. I understand what you're saying, but hopefully they make the right decisions.
It's funny, Ryan, because we've talked about when it happened in the playoffs, how could they ever attract big name free agents when players will look and say, oh my God, they use the computers manage this team. And now here they are pursuing the number one free agent of all time and seems like they're a finalist. It kind of blows my mind that they're in this thing. And obviously Ohtani doesn't care about what happened in the playoffs, or he wouldn't even have considered the Blue Jays and gone to Dunedin. They're defying the odds in my mind. And I always thought at the beginning of all this a couple of weeks ago when Soto and Ohtani were being talked about, they could get both of them, and now, one's gone. Now they might not get either. And has this put them back from going after other free agents along the way? Concerns me as well.
There's going to be a lot of unhappy fans if you leave this offseason.
One right here.
You were in on Soto, which I thought was unrealistic from the beginning. I always felt like he was probably going to New York, whether it was the Mets or the Yankees. So he's gone. And now you've gone all this way where the report is that the announcement's going to come at the end of this weekend and you don't get Ohtani. It's going to be it already ended as an unhappy fan base. Now you're going to go into this season with an even unhappier fan base. You can go out and get Cody Bellinger. You can go and get Jock Peterson or whoever you want, and nothing will satisfy this fan base. And they're going to be calling for Shapiro and Atkins instead, even John Schneider to that point as well. And then you have the big question mark around Alek Manoah. What's Manoah going to be next season, right? We hear about that he's in trade rumors, but Atkins is adamant that he wants him to be a part of the team. So, for the Jays, I really hope they do get Ohtani because, for the management, it's not going to be good if they don't, because as of right now, I think most Jays fans are assuming that Ohtani is going to be suiting up for the Toronto Blue Jays come next season.
Yeah, that would be preferential for sure. Yeah, the Soto thing was always unrealistic to me simply because the Jays just don't have the prospect capital that other teams have. Clearly the Yankees, the Mets. With Ohtani, it's just money. There's nothing going the other way. So that's what made it seem more realistic as, pie in the sky. It seems still. That's what made it seem more realistic. And my concern, I guess, Clarkey, is if they don't get him, there is still quality on the free agent market. It's just that if they don't get him now to uplift us all, this falls back into the hands of the same team that just disappointed us so mightily. And Bo Bichette had a very solid season. I'm still concerned about his defensive ability at short. Vladdy, that was undeniably a horrific season by his standards and based on what we've been told about him. So if Ohtani's not coming, it's the same old guys.
And Merrifield gone, core, and maybe Merrifield gone.
Kiermaier gone, veteran guys. So and Manoah up in the air. Is this guy even? Well, Varsho, at least he's good defensively. So that's my concern.
Sorry to cut you off, Ryan, but let's not forget. A couple of weeks ago, we were hearing about Vladdy and Bo being on the trade market.
Yeah, exactly.
People seem to forget that, but that's where we're at. I just have a feeling that this ownership doesn't trust Bo Bichette or Vladdy. I think they want them to be the guys, but after the past couple playoffs, I just don't think that they feel that same way, and maybe they want to cash in him now. But if you get Ohtani, then you don't have to worry about those things as much, because if you're inserting Ohtani into the lineup with Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero, not only are you looking at a powerhouse in baseball, but you're looking at a team that should win the World Series.
And to finish off the thought about if they don't get Ohtani, if we thought the venom that was being spewed was bad after the playoff, this fan base will absolutely throw it all at Shapiro and Atkins for not getting this done. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
they weren't any fans' favorites mind before this. Now they've sort of winning people back. Hey, if they can pull this off, I'm a believer now. Okay, this team, these guys can do it. They got to still prove they can win, but if they don't do this,
oh God, I hope so. I hope so, boys.
Yeah. We'll see how it turns
out. It's an exciting time, though.
It is, and I hope that by the end of the weekend we have good news and we're all celebrating. And next week will be a very celebratory, instigating show. Albert, final point on this before we move on quickly to some football and then, of course, hockey. Will this be the most significant acquisition in Canadian sports history? I think yes.
In Canadian sports history.
Yeah.
I can't, honestly, I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of anything bigger. Can you? I don't know.
No.
I can't.
No.
I mean, like I keep saying, it's the modern day Babe Ruth. You're getting a top 10 pitcher in the MLB. You're getting a top 10 hitter in the MLB on your team at a young age in his prime, and he's a global superstar. I can't think of anything closer. I mean, if Toronto FC, maybe they got Messi, that'd be close, but I don't see it. I think this is not only an MLB sports moment for Canada, but it's definitely a Canadian sports moment. There's nothing that trumps it. There really isn't.
No doubt.
Yeah, Messi would be the only thing close, but it would still pale in comparison to this, I think, simply because of the age that Ohtani's being acquired at.
Right.
Like if Messi's 27 and for some reason ends up on TFC, absolutely, because it's soccer. Yeah. But
I also love some of the takes on Twitter. Oh, this guy doesn't want to play in Canada. How do you know? Like, how does anyone know he doesn't want to play in Canada? Like, look at Kawhi after he won the championship.
People are speaking about him like he's American.
Exactly. Yeah. This guy is not American.
He's like, Japanese,
Japanese. He may love Canada way more than he loves America. We don't know. Anyway,
yeah, I completely agree. I don't think anything would be bigger, even if you could turn back the clock and the Leafs got Gretzky back in the day, or the Leafs got McDavid now.
That would be close.
That's coming.
That would be close. I still think this is so much bigger because baseball is so much bigger, and you're tapping into an Asian
100%.
Market that has billions 100%. And billions of people watching every movie makes.
Yeah. People are trying to compare
it's going to be amazing.
People are trying to compare this to Kawhi Leonard going to the Toronto Raptors.
No.
Leonard, when he went to the Raptors, when he went to the Raptors, even now was not the best player in the world. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't LeBron James.
No, he wasn't the best player in the world. And keep in mind, there were a lot of question marks about him. Would he even show up?
Yeah.
And how many games would this guy even play? And would he stay healthy? Now it all worked out, but there was not the same type of fanfare. It was contained excitement. It was skeptical excitement. If Ohtani signs with the Blue Jays, it will be an outrageous party-like atmosphere. I really, really hope it happens. You know what's not a party-like atmosphere?
I also think, just to finish this off, Tokyo is 14 hours ahead of Toronto.
Yeah.
So let's look at this happening either in the evening, after 6, 7 at night, which is the morning there, or it could happen in the wee parts of the morning here. I don't see it ever happening during the day. That's just my last thought on it. So you don't have to check Twitter all day. Just do it in the first thing in the morning and then after 6 or 7 at night.
And man, I've been my refresh on Twitter, my screen.
I know.
It's ridiculous. I have to catch myself. I'm like, what am I reading right now? MLB Insider 162 is telling me that the Ohtani is going to sign with the Jays, and I'm believing it. Like, this is how crazy it's gotten.
It's 60% chance. Last I saw.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We got pie charts. I'm wearing a dent into my phone just doing this.
I thought you got wearing a groove tattoo there for a minute, Ryan.
That's what I thought too.
No Ohtani. Maybe if he signs, Shohei.
Yeah, okay.
Some free advertising right on my back. It's not a party like atmosphere right now, Albert. It's Buffalo, New York, and man, the Bills. When we had you on, it was right heading into the NFL season. It was right after week 1, Aaron Rodgers, all that stuff. We touched on a number of things. So I want to throw a couple of football things your way before we move on to Clarkey's beloved Maple Leafs. 3 things. Buffalo, they going to make the playoffs? Yes or no?
You got to hit me with this one, huh?
What's the pie chart say?
I've always been on the bubble. I'm going to say no. I mean, they got some really tough games coming up. They're 6-6. Who do they have next? They got the Chiefs, the Cowboys. The Chargers isn't an easy out. I know your Patriots have been. I mean, who would have thought the Patriots would be the second worst team in the NFL? But they do cause the Bills some problems. And then they wrap up the season against the Dolphins in a game where they might need to win to make the playoffs. So I'm going to say no. And I find it very upsetting because I think they have everything. In terms of a defense, I know that they've been, ravaged by injuries. But other than that, I mean, they got the quarterback, they got the wide receivers, they got the O-line. The fact that they're probably going to miss the playoffs is extremely sad. in terms of this window that they have with Josh Allen, but I just don't see it happening. That's a tough game against the Chiefs. The Cowboys, I mean, Dak looks like the MVP right now. And then they got the Chargers. Herbert looks good. Patriots, okay, they might win that game, but then you go to the Dolphins in a must-win game. It looks very unlikely for the Bills, and it's going to be a sad season. And like I said, it's a short window for Josh Allen and the Bills, and it's closing really quickly.
Let me throw another one your way. The Cowboys, you brought up Dak and his MVP odds.
Right.
Are the Cowboys finally for real?
Are they for real? I mean, it seems that way. I think what's it taken for the Cowboys to be for real? It's for them to have a quarterback that's for real. And that is Dak Prescott, especially at home. Like at home, they are probably the best team in the NFL. They dominate teams. So if Dak keeps playing this way, which he made no indication that he's not going to stop playing this way, then I think the Cowboys are definitely for real. Will they win the Super Bowl? I don't think so. This is how I feel about the NFL right now. And this is how I feel about Patrick Mahomes. I look at Patrick Mahomes the same way I look at Tom Brady. As long as he's in the NFL, I don't care what age he's in, I'm going to assume that he's a gamer and he's ready to go. The same way Brady was up until the end of his career. And as long as he's in the NFL, I truly believe that the Chiefs are probably the best team to win the Super Bowl in any season.
Taylor Swift likes your response, my friend. I want to ask you this as well on the MVP train. A running back has not won MVP since Adrian Peterson in 2012, I want to say. It was either 12 or 13. And before him, it was LaDainian Tomlinson in 2004. So it's not very often that it's not a quarterback. But this year, given what CMC, my guy, Christian McCaffrey, that's going to carry me to a fantasy football title for the second year in a row, given what he's doing, should he be considered heavily as the MVP favorite? I say yes.
Absolutely. I mean, he's done everything possible for this 49ers team to be as good as they are. I think at the moment, I haven't checked the past couple of days, but I believe that Brock Purdy is favored to be the MVP.
Yes, he is.
Right. So I can see Brock Purdy, and he's done nothing close to what CMC has done. I think you take Christian McCaffrey out of that 49ers team, and they're not the same. I know they got the defense. I know they got Brandon Ayuk. I know they got some crazy players on that side. The offense is unbelievable with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. But I feel like you can take Brock Purdy out of that lineup and insert a quarterback who can manage a game, and the 49ers will still be fantastic. But if you take McCaffrey out of that team, it's a different dynamic. It's a completely different offense. And when you're looking at most valuable players to their team, it's the most impact that they have on their team. And if you take McCaffrey out, it's a different 49ers team. So I have to say, I don't see why he can't win it. I would actually put him above Brock Purdy in terms of MVP rankings at the moment.
I would as well, my friend. And let's give Brock Purdy his flowers. He leads the NFL in every significant passing category. But I agree with what you just said about CMC. He is like the drummer in a great rock band. He's Neil Peart. He is the metronome that gives that offense their rhythm. And he's playing some great solos out there. And he's just as effective running the ball as he is at catching. And his yards after catch are out of this world for a running back. He is such a freak, and I think he deserves to win MVP. Final one for you on the NFL. Should Bill Belichick still be the Patriots head coach next year?
Ryan, I feel like this is a question for you, buddy. Should he be? I don't know. I mean, I feel like I keep hearing reports and rumors about him going to the Chargers, and I feel like that makes sense. They have all the pieces in place. They have a really good quarterback, but I don't know. I don't think he should be the coach of the Patriots anymore. I think that ship has sailed. I feel like him and Bobby Kraft should just shake hands and probably go their ways. But listen, I feel like Belichick has taken a lot of heat, and I understand why, but you still have to take into account his resume and what he's done. It's not just because of Brady. He's a very good coach. And I think he can move on and still be a very, very good coach. I just don't think it's in New England at the moment. Maybe some of his responsibilities need to be taken away. He shouldn't be the guy looking at players to draft. He should not be the scout. He should just be the coach who can coach a very good team to a Super Bowl. And at the moment, the Patriots aren't that. So I think he needs to move on.
Whose decision?
I kind of agree. Well, it'll be Robert Kraft.
Yeah, I think.
But if Bill says I don't want to go anywhere, does Robert do anything?
Yes. Yeah. Robert Kraft's
like Vasilevsky. Come on out, Vasilevsky. No, I'm staying right here.
Yeah,
I'm staying right. I'm not coming out of the game. I know it's a little different. But he's been there so long that he may just say, no, I want to keep going.
Here's the thing, and I agree with what Albert said. I would be okay with him remaining the head coach as long as he's no longer the general manager, because you look at the amount of offensive guys that he skipped over and his draft busts. I don't want that guy running my replenishing of the offense anymore. We've ruined Mac Jones, who was a top 100 NFL player after his rookie season. Mac Jones, as a rookie, led this team to the playoffs. For God's sake. And then you throw 3 different offensive coordinators at him in 3 years. Of course, the poor kid is broken mentally. Here's the thing about Bill that I'll say in closing before we take a quick break, and we'll come back with Albert and talk Leafs. He's still coaching a top 5 defense. And recently, the Patriots just became the second team in NFL history, the first since the merger, to go 4 straight games allowing 14 or fewer points and lose all 4. They can defend like madmen. They can't score. We can't have them running our drafts anymore, but I'd be okay if Uncle Bill stays on as the coach. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, a lot to touch on in Leafland. Of course there is. And we're going to chat about that with our buddy Albert Vartanian, the host of Homestand Sports, coming up next. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, the Listowel Squash Courts. Ryan Drury back here with Clarkey, still joined by our great friend Albert Vartanian, the host of Homestand Sports. You got to check that podcast out. It's so much fun to listen to. And Albert, right off the hop, I want to ask you about something that your co-host Justin Pooney said recently this week on the podcast. And it was after the overtime shenanigans that occurred against the Boston Bruins, Brad Marchand scoring that very wonky goal, and everybody's making a big deal about the Tavares back check. Well, your co-host said something very pointed. I'll let you address it first, and then I know Clarkey will have something to say. He is of the opinion that John Tavares should be stripped of the C for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What do you think of that, Albert?
I don't always agree with my co-host. He's very strong in his opinions. I don't think he should be stripped for what happened. Do I agree that John Tavares is the right captain for the Toronto Maple Leafs? I'm not sure, not necessarily, but who else are you going to give that seat to? Maybe Morgan Riley. But for what happened in that Boston game, no. You shouldn't have your C stripped from you. It was a strange play. Listen, Nylander was super lackadaisical in that play at center ice. He was looking at the bench. And if you watch that play over, Jake McCabe was taking his sweet-ass time just to get to that bench. So he's waiting for McCabe to change, to make the pass. Obviously, he goes down, breakaway, Pastrnak on the other side. Great save by Joseph Woll, by the way. 9 times out of 10, I think Pastrnak probably scores that goal, and then Marchand gets the lucky rebound. It's a bad look for John Tavares to be watching from the other blue line, but I think that's just like a human instinct type deal. I think he saw Pastrnak, out of all people, on a breakaway. He thought the game was over, and he was a little late to the party. If he started to skate back, maybe, just maybe, he would have made it back in time to start Marchand. But I'm not gonna hammer Tavares too much for that one. I feel like it was late in his shift. He saw Pastrnak, and he assumed the game was over, and that's why he didn't skate back as hard as he possibly could.
Clarkey?
Should he be stripped of the C? That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Of course not. This guy, of all the core 4, or even if you can, Riley hustles too, but this guy hustles more than the other 3 guys do all the time.
That's fair.
All the time. This guy works harder than Matthews. He works harder than Marner, and he definitely works harder than Nylander. That was an unfortunate play, as you said, Albert. Here's the thing, though. If Woll makes the stop like he did, and all of a sudden Morgan Riley gets the puck, guess who could be the hero?
Right.
Because Johnny T at the other blue line, he's getting the puck and going deep. I don't know where the other Boston defender was. Like, we know Marchand got down there and scored the goal, who collided with Willie at center ice. Willie's basically trying to hold him down. How can Marchand get down there and Willie couldn't get down there because he was at the end of the shift too? I'm sure he probably played 3.5 minutes of that overtime. Hey, it happens. Everyone, like we've seen Ovechkin's controller get disconnected before too. It happens. It absolutely happens to the best of the players.
Here's the thing.
I think I've riled them up, Albert.
Here we go.
Here's the thing, and it's why I agree. He absolutely shouldn't be stripped of his captaincy.
No. Oh.
And there's a lot of things, and I'll make a point here that'll move the conversation on to somewhere else, but I'm glad you brought that up. Here's the thing. He deserves his criticism for the play because they've leveled it at other players, including Ovechkin. We've all seen the Xbox controller meme. Yes. However, you're not allowed to bring him up anymore in those conversations because there's a little thing that
Here we go.
Where he did this.
Yes, he did.
So John Tavares has never been past the second round on 2 opportunities in his career, one in Long Island, one in Toronto. I agree he's probably the hardest worker on that team most nights outside of Morgan Riley, who I think is having a great bounce back season. Remember, people were all over him last year. He's having a really good, and I thought he was their best player in the playoffs, by the way, too.
Yeah.
You don't bring up 8 anymore. That's not relevant.
Okay.
You leave him
Till
alone.
the next time, I'll leave him alone.
However, what I will say now, though, is that you guys made good points there. McCabe, what an awful change.
Yeah.
Awful.
Again, and this team's getting hammered for their line changes all season long.
That's my point.
Happening.
That's my point. So it's a cacophony of errors. Tavares, yes, it's a bad look that you don't hustle back. Yes. William Nylander has to be far more aware. You're cutting into the middle with one of the best stick checkers in the league. You can see McCabe is going off for a change. You need to be aware that you need to spin back and wait for a fresh teammate to come on. He doesn't do that. He tries to make a move. He gets picked off. McCabe needs to get off. And all of that being said leads me to this point. It's not should Tavares get his C ripped off. Is Sheldon Keefe's shelf life as the coach of this team reaching the cliff's edge of that shelf, Albert? Because, look, they lead the league again. This is the second time in 4 seasons under Sheldon Keefe that at this stage of the year, they lead the league in too many men minors. Unacceptable to me. Is he reaching the end of his tenure here? Because this is unacceptable. And the way they're playing right now, honestly, I don't love it.
Yeah, it's really, honestly, it's really hard to say because I think what happens if you fire Sheldon Keefe and bring in a new coach? What actually changes? Okay, maybe you get that new coach bounce, right? That everyone talks about. We see what's going on with the Edmonton Oilers. Is that because of the new coach? Or is it just because there's been a shock to the system? If the Leafs need a shock to the system, then it kind of makes sense. I don't know who's out there to replace Sheldon Keefe that would do, a better job. Is it the guy beside him, Guy Boucher? Possibly. He hasn't been a coach in the NHL for a long time. I mean, the too many men penalties, that's definitely an issue. Not winning in regulation, that's definitely an issue. But how much of that actually falls on Sheldon Keefe? I mean, when it comes to the too many men, I would say that's probably a coaching issue. When it comes to regulation wins, I don't think that's on Sheldon Keefe. But if there's a change that needs to be made for a team that's completely up against the cap, there's not much you can do with the cap space. If you can't move some players, like Brad Treliving is saying, if he thinks that maybe the price that is out there for certain players to add to this team is too high, then your next option is to make a change at the coaching position. So I want to say I'm probably like 50% on this. I just don't see another coach coming in and really shaking up this team to turn them into, I don't know, a Stanley Cup contender. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's tough to say. Clarkey, I'm interested on your thoughts on this. I mean, I know you're a proponent of this. A couple of years ago, I ran into a fella that you're a big fan of up in the media booth calling the Guelph Storm action. Brucey Boudreau was there watching his son.
As much as I would love Brucey, and he loves the Toronto Maple Leafs, we all know that. I just think his time has passed by. Gerard Gallant's out there. As you mentioned, Guy Boucher. I love the idea of a more intense coach like a Guy Boucher. Like, he scares me to look at him. And I mean, I think maybe they're at the point where that's what they need. I'm always a guy who thinks that I would love to be like the Pittsburgh Steelers and have a Mike Tomlin there for like 35 years. You know what I mean? Like, but the problem is the players tune the coaches out. Yeah. And it just seems like the way, like Sheldon Keefe apparently practiced on Wednesday this week, had another screaming match with them. We've seen it on the bench during games. We haven't seen that from him very often. And I think he's feeling the heat. This team only has 5 regulation wins. I mean, the San Jose Sharks have more. Thankfully, they're winning in overtime. Thankfully, they're winning. I mean, they're still in the playoff spot, and they have a ton of games in hand. The schedule has been really wacky, too, for them. Yeah. But, yeah, I tend to agree with you. Who's the magic guy going to come in? Like that, it's one thing to fire a guy, but who's going to come in? They've had some guys behind their bench standing beside Keefe who have gone on to coach other teams. The Washington Capitals, their Ryan's team is one of them. And then Hackstall went to Seattle as well. So yeah. They seem to be able to develop some head coaches back there. And I wouldn't be too upset if Guy Boucher was the guy. And I think in a short term, he would be the guy if they ever did get rid of Sheldon.
I honestly believe that complacency is an issue with a lot of these players on this team, especially when it comes down to the core, especially when it comes down to the core 4. And I'm so sick of saying core.
No, but you're right. You're right.
I'm adamant about this, that one of those 4 players needs to move on. You can't do it with Austin Matthews. You cannot do it with John Tavares. You can't do it with Mitch Marner. All those guys got no trade clauses, and no one's going to take Tavares' contract. So at least one player. Willie Nylander. If Willie Nylander says, if him and his team say, I want $10 million, nothing less, and I'm Brad Treliving and I'm Brendan Shanahan, I'd say, listen, we're willing to pay you whatever it is, $8.5, $9 million. If you don't want that, see you later. I'd get rid of him. There needs to be a shock to the system with this team. We've had a pretty good sample size of these 4 players, along with Morgan Riley, and what they can do in the playoffs, and it's absolutely nothing, then now it's time to move on. You're tied up against the cap. Don't tie in 50% of your cap into 4 players and start to invest in some defense and stop chopping and changing the bottom 6 and build a legitimate cup contender. With these 4 players and what they've been doing over the past 6, 7 seasons, it's not working. Something needs to change, and it's not the coach. It comes down to the players, and I think they need to be taking most of the heat on this team rather than the management. That's what I believe, and I believe that for a long time now.
I tend to agree with you, and it's unfortunate that our former GM there, Mr. Dubas, who's having trouble in Pittsburgh, not only gave Mitch Marner all that money, but gave him a no trade, no movement in the last year or last 2 years of his deal. Like, what leverage did he have? I don't know. I find it crazy that he had that kind of leverage to be able to get that, because I honestly think if he didn't have that no movement clause, he would be the one gone.
I believe so. Listen, when the playoffs come along, we watch it. I mean, we got the UI.
He disappears.
What's going on? The ice shrinks, and it's not to say Mitch Marner. No. When it's open ice, he can skate around and do what he's got to do, and he's got a great player. He's going to be a 100-point player. He was almost there. That's no question. But it's not about the regular season when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's about the playoffs. And I feel like a broken record because I keep saying the same thing over and over again. But until there's a change, nothing's going to happen. I mean, look at John Tavares. If John Tavares was making $6 or $7 million, we're talking about one of the best contracts in the NHL. We really are.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that because he's making, what was he making, $11 million?
11 even.
What are we doing? And I understand Dubas and the management thought, before COVID, that it would get to $87.5 million, which it will be next season, and then $92 million. That didn't happen. And they shot themselves in the foot, and they're trying to figure out, well, how are we going to fix this? Well, I know how.
Yeah.
Don't pay 4 forwards $10+ million each.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's unfortunate that Willie's probably going to be the guy that they move or say goodbye to. I really think that's unfortunate because I really think it should be Mitch Marner. I really do. And I honestly think if Dubas was still here, Mitch wouldn't be. He would have traded him before that contract kicked in. But
that's the prominent rumor anyway. It's a problem for sure. Clarkey, he'll have to prove me wrong, and I'm not saying this again because of the Boston overtime thing, but I've said this right from the day of. I disagreed with signing John Tavares. I think the Leafs would have been better off.
We know
Nazem Kadri around
for
less and having room to add defenders, because they didn't need to add John Tavares to this lineup. And for anybody who's saying yes, they did, what has it gotten them? What has it gotten them?
What has signing Mitch Marner to $12 million deal got them?
Yeah, exactly.
I know. And
too.
To me,
they're on their
John
third
has been
GM.
around and had earned a little bit more money than Mitch Marner.
Yeah. But they're now on this core. They're on their third GM. They're on their second head coach. In my opinion, potentially soon to be their third. Something's got to give.
So you think Sheldon's gone,
Albert?
You think they're going to get rid of Sheldon?
If they keep playing like this, I've seen better coaches fired for less, is what I'll say.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Better coaches fired for less.
Yeah, I think if it keeps going this way, he'll probably get fired. Is that the right decision to make? Probably, maybe not. But let's look at the standings. They're in a wild card spot. They're fighting for their lives at the moment. Like they're not comfortable. They can't afford Ilya Samsonov to get out of this funk that he's in. They can't afford to run 3 AHL defensemen. They need to get right now. And what's the next step when you need a team to get right? We saw it in Edmonton. We saw it in Minnesota. The coach has got to go, unfortunately.
Well,
we'll see.
I mean, it's one thing to have games in hand, but you got to win those games.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's the old adage.
The schedule is going to get tougher now.
One guy.
Yep.
It's easier.
And
to
the Atlantic is it's no joke. There's no easy ride in the Atlantic anymore. You're not going to Detroit and picking up 2 points like it's nothing.
Detroit's
You're not going to Ottawa. I'm not even convinced that they beat Ottawa. I mean, Ottawa already smashed them this season. So it's a tougher division. It's a tougher league, and I think the Leafs need to understand that and act quickly.
Ottawa, I mean, there's no slouches in the division anymore.
My level of concern, Ryan, is pretty high right now.
Yeah, I understand. We've talked to him before. It won't happen this year because he's comfy where he is, but maybe in the off season, maybe the Leafs. There's a lot of chatter around how good of a job once again cousin Brad's doing down in Philly.
Yeah.
Someone's got to let cousin Brad be a head coach.
Hey, Babs is around too. Babs is out there.
Enough out of you. I got one last question for Albert. As we record this right now, Austin Matthews and Zach Hyman have both played 22 games. Matthews 16 goals, Hyman 15. Hyman's got 2 more assists. He got one more point. He's got one more point than Austin Matthews. Hyman's +6. Matthews is even. He's at 0. If Austin Matthews, when his big deal as the highest paid player in the league kicks in next year, if he puts up through the duration of that contract years like this, is that acceptable to you?
I would say right now Austin Matthews is sleepwalking, and he's putting up these points where Hyman is playing with the best player in the world. Ryan Drury, if I put you on a line with Connor McDavid, you'd probably have 20 goals this season. I saw this on Twitter. I see these comparisons. Is Zach Hyman better than Austin Matthews? And
that's not what I'm saying.
No. I know that, but that's the big thing that's going on social media right now. After Hyman just scored another hat trick, and it's not even close. Listen, Austin Matthews last season was out for a large part of the season. He was injured for the majority of the season, and still got to 40+ goals.
Yep.
I have zero concern when it comes to Austin Matthews.
Okay.
I would trade Marner for him, though.
Wow.
Marner for Zach Hyman?
Yeah. Let's do it.
You know what? I'm not even against that. I am not against that at all.
You're clearing a lot of space. You're getting a guy who hustles
too.
And works hard every night.
That's the type of player that they need. They got rid of because they didn't want to pay him, and they couldn't pay him. But that's what they need.
Yeah. You know what? This show's called Instigating. We love to argue on here. Clarkey, I actually like that idea.
Hey.
I actually like that idea. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Albert, where can they find you on social media? Obviously, everybody should go and download and subscribe to Homestand Sports. It's such a great show. You do a great job on there, and Room 442 if you need your soccer fix here in Canada with the legend James Sharman. Yes. Albert's on there as well. Where can they find you on socials, brother?
Thank you. Yeah, just my name, Albert Vartanian, on social media, TikTok, Instagram, or X now. It's not Twitter, it's X.
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we drop the Homestand pod. It's majority NHL, heavy on Leafs talk. So if you want to tune into some Leaf talk, you can do that. And Monday and Friday on Room 442 with James Sharman to get your Premier League fix, which I always love jumping in on.
Gorgeous.
Guys, I'm just checking Twitter. I want to just let you know, Ohtani, still 60%.
Okay, good.
Okay, still
okay,
60.
Good.
Thanks to our buddy Albert
Thanks,
Vartanian. Make sure you subscribe to Homestand Sports. We'll take a quick break when Clarkey and I come back. We'll do our Conway Furniture Couch Potatoes of the week. And as always, there's going to be some interesting picks. That's next here on Instigating. Wrapping things up here this week on a great episode of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture. Listen, Highway 86, east end of Listowel. You know the drill by now. Our friends at Conway Furniture, they got all of your furniture needs. They got a bunch of great holiday deals on. Follow them on social media, Instagram in particular. They're always posting stuff on there. They got a bunch of great holiday deals. And hey, the prices you see on the stuff in there include HST and delivery. There's no hiding behind a price tag with our friends at Conway Furniture. They get it done for you. And there's no hiding from us when it comes to the Conway Furniture Couch Potato of the week. And obviously we thank our great friends over at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC as well. Great deals. They're always hot, no matter the time of year. Cold outside, deals remain hot at Larry Hudson's. And of course, our friends over at the Listowel Squash Courts. Clarkey, real quick, what's going on over there at Larry Hudson's? There's always something hot going
always
down
things
with
going
the
down.
deals.
Yeah, 23s, some 23 trucks, some 0% financing. 0%.
They're going away, man.
0% financing.
Can't beat that.
No,
there's nothing better
on
than
a select few, but there's still some. So yeah, 0%. We haven't seen 0% in a long time. There at Larry Hudson's, where the deals are
hot. And they're always hot over there. Get over there. 0%. You can't beat zero. Zero's the best.
Cannot. You cannot beat zero.
You know what? On that note, and we're going to change the pace up here on the Couch Potato of the Week, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture. I'm going to go first because when you talk about zero, and producer Adam, you're ready with my clip. Unsurprisingly, it's this, and it's zero effort from our friend John Tavares.
And I know can't do that.
Yes,
I can't do that.
Yes, I can.
Oh,
I was nice about it with our friend Albert. I hate this play. And I know that William Nylander's at fault on the turnover. I know Jake McCabe is lazy getting off the ice. You know who also ties into that? We took a shot at Sheldon Keefe and the coaching that leads to stuff like this and the too many men's and all that. You know who else is responsible for it? The leader, the guy with a C stitched on his chest. And I hate doing this because Clarkey, you brought it up. They did it to my guy Ovi for years.
Play it again,
Adam.
We can do it
to him. We can do it to him. He's not won anything. Ovi turned it around. Producer Adam will roll it again. Here we go. Ovi turned it around. He won. This guy hasn't, and he deserves his criticism. I don't think he should lose his C, and I don't think people should come down too hard on him. But this in a clip with their captain at the center of it is the biggest problem with this team. The effort wanes all the time. They make bad decisions all the time.
Okay, here we go.
That's why they've not won. Okay. That's my couch potato.
I want to just talk a little bit about, and I wish I had to mention this with Albert. When it's 3-on-3 in overtime and you don't have the puck, what's your role? What do you do?
To be on a man.
Right. Where was the Boston guy? The third guy?
Across the ice from him.
No, he was like 10 feet. He was right in the middle on the blue line. You can't see him in the clip. Right there.
He peels away.
Right.
The defender.
As long as he's still now. Yeah. He was not in the play. John's got to cover him. John's got to make sure he's covered. Okay. So if he didn't go down, John doesn't have to go down. And I'm being 100% serious. We can't see that. We can't see where he is. That's Pasternak who made the pass.
McAvoy's actually in the zone there when Marchand scores 10 strides ahead of Tavares.
No, I'm refusing.
Whatever the defenseman was, it might have been. Brandon
cheap.
Carlo.
That's a cheap one. That's cheap.
It's not, Clarkey.
Cheap.
It's not.
Cheap.
You tried to take a shot at my guy, Ovi. No, you tried to take a shot at my guy, Ovi. I had to deal for years with the Xbox disconnected meme, and I don't want people to do that to Tavares. But I will say, as much as I agree that play is maybe 30% his fault, maybe even less, he's the captain of the team, and stuff like this happens all the time.
Okay,
and
stop. We've heard it enough. We've heard it enough.
That's more. No, but that's more my point. Not the play itself.
My turn.
Not the play itself. It's that stuff like that under his watch happens too often. Go ahead, Clarkey.
My turn.
Nice hat.
Thank you. So this happened. I've been in many scrums in my life. I've watched a lot. I've been taking notes a lot. And I've never felt like I was on my couch when I've been in a scrum. It's a professional,
very professional
atmosphere.
Very professional.
But let's just watch and listen to Andrei Vasilevsky this past week in a scrum after a game. Roll it, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't great feeling last game, but
it's not good.
It's not good. It's so I'm sure everyone could hear that. Someone let one rip during the press conference. Now, I know O-Dog sort of broke it down thinking that this didn't go through a few layers of pants. So he's kind of thinking it was pretty clean and probably came from a player standing off to his side.
Some people said it was Vaz. Some people thought Vasilevsky was the one that did it.
I honestly can say I've never heard or smelt anything like that in a scrum. And after a game, you smell the sweat of guys. There's no doubt about that. But that is offside. That is very offside. Some guy thinking he was sitting on his couch with nobody around and let one rip in the middle of a presser. This week's Conway Furniture Couch Potato of the Week for me.
That's a really, really good one. Maybe the best one we've ever seen. It's compelling content, and I agree. And listen, in closing, the point here is being a couch potato is not always a bad thing, like we've demonstrated here, okay? Being a couch potato can be a great thing when you see our friends at Conway Furniture. And if you want to go in and get a great deal, holiday deals are flying all over the place in there. The prices you see include HST and delivery. If you want to go in there and get a new couch and let one fly in front of your family at Christmas, you can do that with our friends at Conway Furniture. You can do that. You don't even need to be standing in a scrum in Tampa Bay. You can let her fly during the holidays with our friends at Conway Furniture. God bless Andrei Vasilevsky, brother. That was great. Clarkey, that was a lot of fun, man. Thanks to our friend Albert Vartanian. Please subscribe to Homestand Sports. They do a great job on there. Him and Justin.
You can do that right now.
They're awesome. Homestand Sport. I listen every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, he's on room 442 for your football, soccer fix as well with James Sharman. Albert's one of the best, man. We appreciate him. We appreciate our friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, and of course, the Listowel Squash Courts.
Hey, you didn't update us.
We appreciate you.
Did you play this week?
No, Al's sick. Al's not feeling well, and I can't afford to lose my voice and get sick. The Guelph Storm need me, all right? So not this week.
And thank you, and thanks Steve Sabern for filling in for me last week as I was down with COVID.
There you
came
go.
Back and got me, but I'm alive and I'm a lot better. The voice is still hurting a little, but I'm here and I'm good. So there you go. So thanks to Sabby,
brother. You sounded great today, so that's all that matters. All right, remember. We want to thank you as well, because you know what? You watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Instigating Pod, and you can find the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps, including Spotify and Apple. For our friend Albert Vartanian over at Homestand Sports, that's Clarkey. I'm Ryan Drury. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.